Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith and I'm excited to be diving back into HEXplore It. And this, what you're seeing in front of you right now, is volume number 2. And we're going to be going through an unboxing of what's inside this new content that came from the most recent Kickstarter. What was really exciting was seeing this particular product come to life through Kickstarter through multiple iterations. And the very first volume of HEXplore It was The Valley of the Dead King, which we did a Kickstarter preview and a playthrough of on the channel and had a lot of fun, a lot of viewer interaction, and it was a really enjoyable experience. Now, if you're wondering how this game actually plays, that is what you're going to want to check out, and I'm going to link to that in the top right hand corner of this video, so you can go check that playthrough out if you're interested in seeing how this thing plays. But you can think of this game as an RPG in a box. That is the best way to describe this system. So what we're going to be focusing on in this video again is opening up the box here in front of you, being volume number 2. We'll take a look at the components inside so I can give you a better idea as to what you can expect inside the box. The design around the outside of the box is to look like a book when it's placed on the shelf. And honestly, I'm a really big fan of this style. And here's a look at the back of the box. It says a hero building adventure board game for 1 to 6 players. So solo plays built right in there from the ground up. Which hero will you choose? And I can literally say that that's probably one of the biggest questions in the entire game, because there's so many different ones to choose from, and their loadouts and character classes and breakdown can really be involved in terms of the number of options that you can mix and match. It's really cool. HEXplore It is a hero building adventure board game system. Journey through the mysterious and overgrown Greenfire Forest. Search for gear and supplies in cities that have been completely lost to the Magi, a terrible sorceress who has the power to control others. Make your way across the forest to destinations where powerful fragments lay. Then journey to one of the old battle sites and forge the relics anew. Battle through a variety of encounters while traveling, or move carefully and see what other discoveries you might find. To save the forest, you must build your heroes and seek out the Owen the Dryad, a powerful ally located in the strange Fey realm. Fate seems to work against you, and so you must move quickly. Adrimon's power continues to grow and threaten your hero's sanity. Wait too long and you'll join the ranks of the mind wiped to serve her. The object of HEXplore It, the Forests of Adrimon, is to craft relics of power that are designed to hinder the Magi's ability. Power up your heroes and save what remains of the forest before taking the final battle to Adrimon herself. Do this, and surely the mind wiped will be freed from her maniacal grasp. So at the very top right hand corner of the box, you've got the volume 2 contents all listed below. We really don't need to dive into that too much because you're going to see them up close and personal throughout this video. It's got a 60 to 180 minute window of time to play, and you can play this from 1 to 6 players, as mentioned earlier, 14 plus. Diving into the box, the first thing you're going to run into is a volume 3 teaser. That's right, it's even got some fantastic artwork showing off what is likely to be the next Kickstarter coming up. So this is the gigantic poster for that volume 3 entry. And of course, it's going to add a lot more new content into the fold. This one's called the Sands of Shurax, and really excited for this one as well, as it was mentioned during the end of the last Kickstarter and also just through other channels. This is really cool. There's a massive list here of all the different individuals that made this project come to life. So you're able to find your name in here somewhere. It took me a few seconds to actually find myself, but I am way over here in the special thanks area, rolling solo right down there. So it's really cool to see my name, or at least the channel's name, inside of this big thank you to the backers. And if you are a backer, you will definitely be able to find your name in this ridiculously massive list. The font size is quite small, so it'll take you a bit to kind of churn through. And ironically, I actually went through almost every column until I finally got to this last one of the page fold out. And of course, there I was. But it's just so cool to see everyone that was involved in the project, whether it was from the backers side of things, the creators, the designers, the artists, everything is really mentioned here, and this kind of a thank you is really appreciated. So as soon as you get past that Volume 3 teaser and that thank you to the backers, you're going to find all of this in front of you. You got a bunch of erasable markers, a whole bunch of them. This game is known for that. They've done that in the prior volumes as well. So you've got all kinds of these things, because if you're going to have 6 individuals playing, there's actually 7 included in the box, which is quite nice. And then we've got some cards, we got some actual organization Ziploc bags, and then we have one single mini. Now, from my understanding, this mini is actually from Reaper. So here's an up-close shot of the miniature included inside of the box. It actually looks quite detailed and maybe even better than the original Volume 1 miniature that was included for the Dead King. Now let's go through some of the cards that we saw right here in the box. So we're going to start off here with the Relic Cards, and you can see even the back of the cards are quite awesome looking. The artwork is fantastic. There's the races, you've got the relics, got more relics, and of course this is kind of all mixed together. So let's flip these over and take a look. So you can see right from the get-go, the RPG feel is very heavy here. You got the Wood Elf, and these cards are the race cards. So these are going to add more races into either what you have from Volume 1, or if you just have Volume 2, you can play this standalone as well. And that's actually a really important thing to note. You don't need every volume to play the game, just one or the other and you're good to go. But if you have more, the more you have, the more you can mix and match, and that obviously presents a lot more stuff. So what we have here are relics. So I won't really dwell on these too long, but these are some really powerful cards within the game that are obviously going to have major impact on the game. So those are a couple quick shots right there. If you really want to see some of the detail on those cards, you can just pause the screen to read, but I don't want to spoil anything. So again, the artwork in the game is gone up a notch for sure in this second volume. The rulebook itself looks quite nice. On the back, there's a really nice reference here, searching for gear, initial rolls. So that's a good reference page. Always like that when they make use of the back of a rulebook. In terms of the table of contents, you got about 87 pages, but you're talking about a book that's much less than an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So in terms of actual read there, you can basically cut that down by quite a bit. Even though it's 87 pages, it's really not as much. And there's also artwork throughout this book, very similar to Volume 1. So you got a welcome there, talking about the object of the game, the dice, what they all mean, because there's actually different dice involved in the game, of course. And moving along here, we get into setup. So again, all this stuff's covered in my video series if you're wondering how this game is set up, but this is the coolest part of the game. The fact that these sheets are all dry erase marker washable, so you can basically write on them, just wash it off when you're done. You're updating your stats on the fly. This is something that's not done in board gaming all that often. So it's really cool to see that implemented really well is the other key in this. You can see this is where like you're keeping track of all the different stats, which of course have to do with all the different rolls you're doing, whether it's your health, energy, food rating, all that stuff's tracked here, and it's all erasable after the fact, and also easy to keep record of if you stop playing halfway through. So this is a decent look at just hopefully the rough layout of the rulebook itself. Sorry again for the glare, because that's going to happen with the nice glossy paper, but this is essentially what the game will look like when it's all set up. So that's going to do it for the rulebook. So here is the storybook for volume number 2. And if we move inside of it, here is the table of contents of what to expect inside. So you have game locations going on here, items, circumstances, bosses, all that kind of stuff. And even talks about how you use this booklet. So this is really, really cool. This is kind of where all the meat of the game is hiding. So you got talk about the game locations. The artwork, again, the game is really cool. Beginning, you got the normal play, alternate starts. You can change things up if you want to replay this. So replayability is a big factor in this thing. And then it's just going to go through all kinds of different triggers that you're going to hit as part of the story throughout the game. So this stuff you're going to be exploring on your own as you go through. And I'll give you an example of some of the pages here. So this is, again, some fantastic artwork thrown inside. Grove triggers here. We've got all kinds of grove items, waypost items. Some of this stuff I'm familiar with, and some of it I'm not. Like circumstances came from volume number 1. There's going to be some things in here that are brand new to this particular volume only, and some that just enhance what was from the previous game. So this is really cool to see. I'm going to have to explore this, but there's artwork here for each of these different creatures. That's pretty awesome. We've got a fable here, so there's actually a full narrative going on inside of this particular book, which is awesome. And it's actually got a nice story built into it, part 1, part 2, all the way through. That's actually a decent amount. Wow, look at that. Even a full-on map if you wanted to see the area of this land. So that looks pretty awesome. So overall, the storybook in total comes in around 62 pages. Now, once you remove that tray on the left-hand side, you're going to run into 3 boxes. And this is how the Volume 1 was actually stored as well. They were all broken into boxes, but the box art wasn't as nice in the original first version. It looks like it has changed potentially here in the second version of this Kickstarter. Now, I don't know, going back to the Valley of the Dead King, maybe that box art is the same, but there wasn't actual artwork on it. It was just symbols of what was in those decks. So if they were encounter decks, they might have had a question mark, an exclamation mark, or something along those lines. So this is a nice, boost in terms of the immersion factor and just the look and feel of the game. So again, you've got 3 decks of cards here. And then once these are removed, you also have what I don't actually remember what this is for, but this looks really awesome. Looks like there's actual miniature for this thing, and I don't remember off the top of my head how this actually works, but it is quite cool looking. The detail on that is actually really, really nice. So if you were going to paint that up, I guess you wouldn't have any problems there for sure. But that is a piece that I had completely forgotten about that's inside this thing. So that is really, really nice. Here's the handful of dice that come inside volume number 2. They're very good quality, they look great, and they also are custom engraved as well. How about we take a look at the cards inside volume number 2? We'll start with this box right here. Here's a look at the back of the cards, and this is the kind of iconography that is actually on the card box that you just saw in the past from the original volume 1. This being a brand new box that I've never seen before. They changed it up with real artwork for some of the creatures, which you can see, and we will see as we go through these boxes. But this is how you know what they actually relate to. The map, for instance, or this particular symbol. But most of it has escaped my mind as time has gone on. So it's going to be interesting to get my head back wrapped around again. And again, because it's a different volume, there's new things introduced here. So first off, moving through, I'm not going to stop on every single card, but I do want to give you a rough idea of what you're looking at. So some of these cards are going to actually give you bonuses to your stats or allow you to draw particular cards when you gain them. Some of them are going to be cards that relate to a certain tile. So tile C, in this location, the last hero kind of encounter can happen. That's the kind of thing that's going on with these cards, is that they all relate to certain areas on the map to go explore. So think Skyrim in that regard, in terms of trying to get to certain locations to complete quests and all that kind of stuff. You're going to have to make hard decisions on where you go and what you do as you journey through and deal with all of the evil in the world that's going on. So there's a whole bunch of cards here, of course, and as I mentioned, I'm not going to stop through all of them because there is spoiler territory here for sure, of course, because I don't want to do that to you. But that's essentially the rough idea. And there's different categories and types of these cards. You can see there's survival ones, explore cards, navigate cards, incursions. So all these different types that you're going to run to as you explore the world. One thing I didn't show you guys, on the very top of the box we just opened, it says destinations and fragments. So that's what those 2 different types were. Now this next deck in front of us here is all about power-ups. So here are the power cards. They have pluses on the back, and literally the entire deck is just that. When you gain a power up in the game, it's going to be for a certain stat sometimes. And if you have, say, for instance, a 9 in this stat and you get this card, you're going to add 3 to it. You'll erase the 9, put in 12. Done deal. Some of them, though, are going to be even more interesting. Instead of just gaining 3 straight up on a certain stat that it already chooses for you, you can pick, in this case, 3 different stats and then bump them all up by 1. Very cool. Or you can get different power-ups that actually give you like a favored opponent, for instance. So there's all kinds of different variation in terms of what can be thrown at you as you gain these power-ups. And power-ups are always a good thing, but they may or may not be focused in areas that you're trying to get. So sometimes you might get a power-up for something that you're really already too strong in. That's okay though, because it's just an advantage either way. But it forces you to maybe change your game plan on the map when going after certain encounters to try to level up areas that you're weak in. So this is the unknown deck, essentially, that really throws the replayability in there, which I really love because you have no idea what you're going to get as a bonus in the power-up deck. The last deck of cards is this one right here, and it says the Circumstance deck. The Circumstance deck is all about exclamation marks. There's a whole bunch of them, tons of them. And if we flip them over, these are going to be the types of cards you're going to run into. And you can see here, some of them are going to be specific to actual entities or creatures you're going to run into and have to try to fight with the different type of class that they fall into, how the AI actually works by rolling the hex die, which will tell you how that AI is going to unfold against you. Different things you're going to gain, of course, as a group reward. So all that stuff is here. And of course, this is going to be in addition to what was already presented in volume number 1. So if you're mixing this stuff together, you're really getting a lot. And then again, just all kinds of different things, whether you're actually interacting with creatures, or in this particular case, it's an affliction like Sleepy Spore. You can find discoveries. You can have events happen. There's treasures you can run into. So this deck is a circumstance deck of many different things, bad and good. And it's really one of the coolest parts of the game because you have no idea what's going to get thrown at you, as it's a very mixed bag of cards. So here are some tiles within the game, and these are very important. So for instance, if you go to the Grove, you're going to find a whole bunch of items that you can potentially pick up, and they're all listed here along with their use and their costs and how you can barter for them, and all that kind of stuff is listed on this. Flipping it over, a totally different type of Grove as well, talking about harvesting, dark relics, all kinds of good stuff in here. So you'll be using this as a good reference when you're moving about the world. Next, you're going to see some bad guys, the big bosses of the world. So this is going to be two-sided, as there's multiple different sides to these sheets in front of you. And of course, I believe the actual danger level or threat level of these different enemies you may be going up against are listed up in the top left. And if we continue on through here, Sentinels is something that looks really interesting. So Sentinels can appear on the game board throughout this gameplay and provide a whole bunch of different things that may happen. It actually looks like it's going to try to attack you based on what I'm seeing here with the AI. And if you flip this over to the opposite side, we got Enthralled City. So even if you remember from volume number 1, these are basically tables and charts that you're going to be rolling on or interacting with to further your RPG board game campaign, which is really cool. Moving along, you've got, oh my goodness, this is the individual that you're going after in this particular game. You can see the health there is ridiculously high and stuff like that. But then again, you got all the crazy different possibilities in terms of what this this girl can do to you, which all looks extremely painful. And if flipping this over to the other side, you got the Enraged Elemental. One thing I want to point out again is that the artwork is really good. They definitely jumped it up in quality from the Volume 1 edition originally. Game turns here, this is super handy. This is what you're going to want to use as a reference when you're first learning the game. You got your game turns up top, your movement first, then your skills are done. It tells you based on what you did here in the skills, whether you go this way or whether you go this way, whether you're flipping the chart. Those arrows are down below, but everything is easily followable, and these are just full-on phases all summed up on a quick reference sheet. And then you move to circumstance, or you might skip it, event, and then villain. That's pretty much it. So a handy reference. Next, you've got Battle Sight. So again, some of these things are going to be brand new to even me, even though I played the first volume. This one has healing surges, relics, favors. I believe this stuff is specific to the volume 2, stuff that I don't believe I saw. Maybe I saw relics in the first one, but some of it I don't think. There might have been some healing in there as well, some areas to heal now that it's coming back to me in my mind. Wayposts. So just, again, all reference sheets to use as you interact with certain areas on the tiles. So now we're getting into some more of the bosses. Of course, these are lower level bosses, but they also look nasty. The Devil Moth, for instance, here. Flipping this over, there should be another creature on the back. Yep, I'm not going to bother trying to pronounce that one, but it's the Mad King. That actually looks really cool. Looks like maybe one of the first ones you'll interact with, being it's the lowest level. And now we get into the character boards, and this is something that I absolutely love with HEXplore It, and they do this so fantastically. They use the back side of your character board as a way to have a full-on portrait of your character, and I love that. If you happen to have some kind of stand, which I would use something like Uber Stacks. If you're using those, you can actually keep these player boards straight up and down in front of you so that your friends can actually see the gorgeous artwork on top or right in front of them. Of course, if you're playing this solo, or or even with friends, you may end up keeping this flat on the table like this. You're likely not going to see that artwork, but it's still just absolutely gorgeous regardless. So again, there's all kinds of new character types inside of this game that weren't there from Volume 1. So again, it just bolsters the amount you can choose from. So the Soul Reaver is one here. You've got all your abilities, skills, vitals. You'll keep track of all those numbers in here, plus their costs on the outside. And everything's fairly obvious, really. Once you go through the rulebook, you'll understand it all very quickly. You got your gold, your food meters here. You're obviously going to need to eat food on your adventure. When you're rolling, you're going to have your checks in here, and it even literally color codes the dice you'll be rolling for those particular checks. So it is intuitive. You're not going to be lost once you check out that rulebook, or even better, check out my playthrough. Here's another creature. It looks like this is, I thought I was at the end of the enemies that I'll be facing during the journey, but it appears there are other ones buried in here. This artwork's from the back of the box for sure, and another creature to deal with within the game world. And here's another one. So again, artwork looks really, really cool. Can't wait to run into those guys and have them punish me. Here is another new character within this volume number 2, and it's the Warden. So again, the actual flow of this is all the same in terms of what you're seeing. The differences are in the banner, the title, the quote. Usually these major abilities are always going to be different. Sometimes even the division of some of these are different as well. You'll notice it better up close, but you'll notice there's differences there too. And I think that's pretty much it. The rest of it follows the same. Oh yes, and then the 2-1-2, like that may not be the same going into other player mats as well. So there's a few differences because you create your character as you go along more so than is it preset. Here is another nasty looking villain to deal with, a gigantic spider. The Spider Queen does not look fun. And then the Dire Bear. So awesome. I love, love, love the look of these bad guys. They look so aggressive. Conditions, definitely want to keep this handy, so that's going to be good. Random conditions, I guess you're rolling a die in this particular case and taking conditions. This is where you're going to be doing some basic math, and that's where when you do some attacks, you'll be tallying it up here, kind of in certain areas to determine how much damage you're doing to your enemies and things like that. But again, it's basic math, basic division, basic multiplication in order to determine those. You can see in my playthrough how I handle that, and that will really help you understand how to use this to your advantage when you're playing the game, because this is where the action happens when you start doing your attacks and mustering up all your damage as to, you know, whether you can take down one of these gigantic enemies. Now, the other cool thing about the game is you also have different levels of difficulty across the bottom, so you can go from starter all the way to epic. If you really think in the starter, easy, and moderate range that things are just too easy for you, you can just ramp it right up to heroic or epic, and I can tell you right now, I have tried some of those. It exponentially makes the game more intense. It makes it more fun, but your chances of winning definitely get reduced, so you have to have much more, you have to be min-maxing your turns much better and in order to make it to the end and survive. Here's another piece of art to likely a new character, the Historian. So you can see, like I mentioned before, the numbers along the bottom here, 2-2-1 instead of 2-1-2. So, and even on the abilities, same thing, these numbers are changing, right? So there are some things that are changing per character. This is a really nice piece of art as well. I'm not going to be able to stop saying that because they're all just beautiful. The Stormcaller, there's that one, is a striker. Here is another piece of art, the Druid, a utility character. And then finally, oh no, there's a few actually hiding in here. Wow, okay, that's a different one. A healer, that's pretty cool. I like that one a lot, actually. That would be a fun character to play. Oh my gosh, what is that? Looks like something straight out of Cthulhu, but looks pretty cool. The Verdant Keeper, you may not touch these lands. Yeah, I don't think anyone really wants to mess with that creature. And then finally, oh, that's cool. Do you get actual access to potentially a companion or something? Sweet Dream. Oh, okay. It's all about kind of putting people to sleep, I guess. Dream Eater and Sandman. That's pretty cool. So again, you're also going to see here, of course, the actual terminology of the attacks are changing. There's also icons here specific to the attacks because, of course, each character has very different abilities that way. So, for example, if I put two of these side by side for you, so you can get an example of differences. You can see that the icons are different and the numbers are changing. The names are changing for the attack, defend and use item, first mastery, second mastery. They're not exactly the same. And obviously once you start getting these numbers plotted in here, everything changes. These are map tiles. So you'll be punching all these out. These are the major boards right here. On either side, you've got some actual tiles. Now, one thing I really want to note, guys, is if you're familiar with volume number 1, at least the first edition of volume number 1, the actual graphic artwork on these tiles was not as good as they are now. So they really went to the next level on the actual detail of these tiles and bumped them up quite a bit. Now, if you want to see the difference, go check out my playthrough, as I mentioned, because you will see that the tiles have good artwork, but this artwork just jumps to the next level. And if I'm not mistaken, volume number 1 in the second printing has also been upped to match the standard here in volume number 2 as well. So here is another example of some more tiles. Of course, I'm not showing everything here, but basically at the bottom is another piece to the bottom portion of the board. It has areas to show you where your card should go for particular types of decks that we've already gone through, like this one right here, the Circumstance deck, as you can see right there. And now we're really getting into just straight up tiles for the game. And this, again, like the artwork, loving it, loving the changes that were made. So larger size tiles, again, they have those letters on them. So when we were going through all those different kind of events that you can run into in the world, it'll say, hey, it's on, you know, you have to find tile L in order to go to a certain event. And you'll literally be trying to explore into the land to find tile L and hope to reveal it, to find that particular location to go interact with it. So that's really, really cool part of the exploration of the game. And another sheet of tiles to find inside of volume number 2. Moving on to the next sheet, these ones are actually quite a bit larger now. So you can see these are kind of the edge pieces of the game, but there's also some small ones here with like cities in the mountains or near some crystals. And this tree over here and amongst this kind of winter area appears. But I just love the different art now that it actually shows kind of smaller trees and bushes in some areas with a little river going up leading to the mountains. But then over here it's got some really large trees in the distance clumped together. So there's a lot more to actually look at on the tiles than there was in that original artwork version. And here is the last tile sheet for volume number 2. Now, additionally, on top of all this content that comes in this volume, you can actually merge the tile sets from 2 and 1 and put them together and have one massive game using both systems. That was actually mentioned during the most recent Kickstarter as kind of a way to merge everything together, but you can also, probably more likely, people will keep them separate and play them as individual campaigns, and then maybe after playing them a number of times and getting comfortable with each different system, even though the rules are the same, there's some things that are different between them, then merging it all together to kind of have an even bigger experience is absolutely a possibility here. And one final nod to the designers of the game that I want to give is in regards to these trays. They're fantastic. I remember these trays from the first volume in the original first printing, and it really does help with storage when you actually can punch out tiles that actually sit inside of a tray flush. It's fantastic. Keep that up. That's something that more individuals need to be doing to make life easy for us as we store our board games back in the box. And that's going to conclude the unboxing of the Forests of Adrimon Volume 2 from HEXplore It. Be on the lookout for the upcoming Kickstarter for volume number 3. I really hope that this gives you a good idea as to what you can expect to find inside the box, and I cannot wait to dive into this world a little bit more than I already have with this new content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.